On behalf of the AQHA Executive Committee and staff, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's 50-year Breeder Recognition Awards. You're here tonight from across the United States and Canada. You've shared the gift of the American Quarter Horse with people worldwide. Your touch and your commitment have helped families stay together, children gain confidence, and an industry flourish. Could the men and women who started AQHA 73 years ago ever have imagined it would grow to reach more than 5 million registered horses and nearly 300,000 members? I think that they would be proud of everyone in this room. To date, only 196 members have earned the 50-year cumulative breeder recognition, and 172 have reached the Legacy Award level. You should all be very proud. As you're called to the stage, you're welcome to come with your family and friends. President Johnny Dobbs will present you with your trophy, and each of you will then have some time to give us a few words regarding your 50 years as a breeder of American quarter horses. We'll begin the evening with Billy Joe Bryson from Pilot Point, Texas. Billy Joe got his start breeding racehorses in 1948 with the help of two men who would later become AQHA presidents, Clarence Scarborough Jr. and B.F. Phillips Jr. The result of that breeding, a 1962 filly named First Bid, opened the gates on a pursuit he followed for more than 50 years and counting. Billy Joe's operation has produced multiple graded stakes winners, an AQHA Supreme Racehorse, and even an AQHA Racing Champion. Today, his family operates a working cattle ranch in north central Texas, and as his grandchildren are AQHYA members, we're certain that his love of the American quarter horse has been passed down to another generation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Billy Joe Bryson.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Bryson. I'm Billy Joe's daughter-in-law, and we're thrilled to be here tonight. And I just want to tell you guys, when I first started coming around a long time ago, and Matt was telling his dad about me, he was indifferent to the fact that I was a California farm girl. He was indifferent to the fact that I was an ag girl from A&M. But when Matt told his dad that my Aunt Raquel bred denim and diamonds, now that got his attention, and I was in. Because for Billy Joe, it's always been about horses. His personal chronological timeline of his own life is equated by the horses in his life at that time. Monumental moments such as births, deaths, and even his marriage are cataloged by any of the horses that he was breeding, running, or even running against, because of course he remembers those too. Billy Joe's memory is not what it used to be, but his passion for horses hasn't faltered one bit. And for that, we'd like to thank the association for recognizing his love. And also on behalf of Billy Joe and Betty D and the entire Bryson family, we'd like to thank y'all for recognizing him tonight and giving him this special award. Thank you.
Several years ago, Robert Gentry, the younger of the two Gentry brothers, told the Journal, "We've enjoyed the horse business and we think we've accomplished something for the breed. We brought in as good a blood as we could, and that's what it's all about." Robert and Bruce Gentry of Lubbock, Texas, had an enormous impact on the American quarter horse. They went into business together after Bruce returned home from World War II in the beer business, not the horse business. But it wasn't long until they started breeding horses, first in halter and performance, before moving on to race horses. Their sires and broodmares produced so many success stories, far too many to list here tonight. Both are now deceased. Robert passed earlier this year, Bruce back in 2000. Robert said, "The horse business is a high-risk business. A lot of things can happen, good for you and bad for you. We've been rewarded very well in the horse business." And AQHA would say that the horse business has been rewarded very well by the Gentrys. Representing Robert A. Gentry this evening is Robert's son, Kirk Gentry.
Thank you very much, AQHA. I know my father, he absolutely loved his horses, and he is very, very proud right now. I can't thank the AQHA enough and the first class job they do, and thank you very much.
J.E. Jumonville Jr. says, "Breeding for that one great horse is a life's work." Seems he's done enough work for several lifetimes: a farmer, a rancher, oil and gas, insurance. A resident of Ventress, Louisiana, he even spent 16 years as a state senator. J.E. began breeding American quarter horses in his family's name in 1955. In 1968, he acquired his first racehorse, Turner's Super. The horse would win 5 in a row and have a profound influence on the horseman. Since then, J.E. has bred 202 winners from 331 starters, who together have earned $8.5 million. The man, who has spent his entire life breeding high-quality horses for all disciplines, says his ideal horse is one that excels at his or her job, whatever it may be. Please welcome J.E. Jumonville Jr.
Thank you. I don't really know quite how to say this other than really how I feel. To get this award, all you have to do is breed horses and keep breathing. You know what I said? Breathing, taking a breath. You live long enough, you'll get this award if you keep breeding horses. You don't have to win anything. It can all be duds. You just keep doing it, you'll get one of these. My point being is, the only way you can do it for 50 years is you have to love it. You have to love it from your soul. And without this wonderful wife that I have and these children, I wouldn't be here today. You know, you do a lot of things when you're young. We have had good times, we've had not so good times. You know, not so good times, Bunny would say, "Why are we still doing this?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "God gave me a talent and I'm using it. And because of it, he has blessed us in many ways." But you're looking at the person that did the very first embryo transfer in running quarter horses. That was back in 1983. I can remember when it happened. Oh, they are crazy. That'll never work. I'll never fool with that. Now we live by it. My point being is there's change in the wind, change in the air all the time. And because God has given us the vision and the blessing, we have prevailed to be here tonight. I've got a couple of points that I said it at the table, and I said, you think it would be appropriate to say it up here? And they said, I think so, Jay. I said, the thing I love most about this business is we can do everything right. We can breed the best horses to one another, raise them the best we can, manage them the best we can, and it turn out wrong. And we can also do some things that unorthodox, and it turn out great. And one thing I've learned in this business, if you do something different and it doesn't work, you're crazy. If you do something different, it does work, you're lucky. So my point being, and I'm going to step on some toes in this, but I do it lightly and I do it in jest. I've made many wonderful friends in this business, people I would have never met without the quarter horse. I've made a few enemies too, and I hope to patch it up eventually. I don't need any enemies, don't want any enemies. I love this whole business and everybody in it. And one thing I want to say, probably on a selfish note, is this year you're inducting Dashingly into the Hall of Fame. Now, she raced in 82, 83, 84. Some of you in here may not even know who she is. But she won $1 million, I think it was $1,700,000 or $874,000, something like that, back 30 years ago. I think it's overdue. We don't own her anymore. But we had her during the bulk of her racing career. We bought her at the B.F. Phillips dispersal sale. Excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. I bought Queen for Cash and Just on Love there. I bought her privately from Wendy, Little Ann's daughter, and we raced her. And the people, when we were going through some not so good times, we sold her. And the individual that bought her, all he did was breed her. She's dead and gone now. And she's being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and AQHA recognizes the last owner of the horse. They had to call us for memorabilia so they'd have something to present at the Hall of Fame. I'm asking you to consider including the owners of those horses when they excelled in what they were performed in to be inducted, whether it be for me or anyone else, but to consider it, please. Thank you for your time. I want you to come to Ventress and see us too. We'll show you some real Cajun food. Take care.
When Gene Murphy was 9 years old, his family moved to Menlo, Iowa. He and his brother Leo took jobs starting ponies for H.W. Craven, the man that Gene says taught him about buying, selling, and trading horses. When he was 13, he and his brother bought a 2-year-old colt for $41. They trained him, showed him, sold him for $145. $104 profit was enough to get him hooked, and he soon expanded into the breeding business. In 1975, Gene purchased the horse that would establish the foundation for his own broodmare band, Silk Angie, a daughter of Longbeard by Bandman, her bottom side traced to King and Joe Hancock. He lives today in the same town in which he started his journey, along with 5 mares and a stallion, fewer than the 35 or 40 that he always had in years past, but while the number of head in his pasture has waned over time, his love for the horse business has not. Please welcome Gene Murphy.
I don't know. I have much to say. I've enjoyed this horse thing all these years. Just try to raise a good one. And then you get them ones you wonder what to do with it. But every now and then you get a good one. Then that keeps you going. And back there years ago when my brother and I was kids and got interested in the horse thing, and H.W. kind of took us under his wing, and we showed them ponies. And then we went down to Orient that night. I was 13, he was 15, got Dad's pickup, and drove the back roads down to the sale, and bought that colt. I don't think it was that colt, but one night was down there and bought another colt. Maybe it was him that I had to drive the pickup home because the colt wouldn't stay in the back of the rack in the pickup. Leo could drive, but I couldn't drive. But I drove it home. He was in the back with the colt, and that had to be a terrible trip for him, you know. But that we just went on that way and started riding horses for neighbors and stayed in the horse thing, and it's really been a good business, I think, to be in over the years. It's been fun. Now I'm retired or trying to retire and get down to 3 or 4, so I can enjoy just 3 or 4 of them rather than have. I was just talking back there at the table. I said I got, I don't know, I think I got 17 or something like that around there now, and if it wasn't for winter, I wouldn't mind it. But that winter chores, it's just like, whoa, you know. I'm just going to take care of 3 or 4, you know. By next summer, I'll probably get some more back. As long as they can eat grass, I don't have to chore them and pack hay to them and stuff. So, but it's been a good deal for me. Yep. Thank you.
Eldon White's daughter, Teresa, says, Dad always believed the ideal horse was one with a good mind and good conformation, that a good quarter horse would be gentle enough for a small child, but catty enough to use with cattle. Eldon got into the quarter horse business in the 1950s because the bottom had fallen out, of all things, the Shetland pony market. He started with a broodmare named Trixie and the stallion Hank Leslie. Hank would sell horses not just across the U.S., but across the Western Hemisphere, from here to Hawaii, from Canada to Brazil and Argentina. Eldon passed in 2001, and Teresa says his greatest achievement through the American quarter horse is all the people he met across the world, some who were regular customers, and some who, when passing through Sulphur Springs, Texas, would just swing by to say hello. Representing Eldon White this evening is Eldon's daughter, Teresa Weatherford.
My sister couldn't make it up on stage, so we'll accept the award here at the table. And I would, on behalf of my late father, Eldon White, and the entire White Quarter Horse family, we would like to thank the American Quarter Horse Association for this award. My dad loved horses. He loved meeting people and talking horses. People that came by the farm all the time, he would give them his entire day if they wanted to stay and talk horses. Although he had other chores to do, he would talk as long as they would like. One fella came by a few years after my father had passed, and he said, I used to come by here and I've bought a lot of horses off of your dad over the years. He said we'd run them up in a pen, maybe 20 head, and I'd pick out maybe the top 2 or 3 that I'd like to purchase. And your father would say, oh, I want to keep those 3. But he said, you know, when I left with those 3 horses. So he had a unique way of selling also, but he did love horses. And again, I'd like to thank the American Quarter Horse Association. Thank you very much.
Lorelei Hankins' breeding career started with a mare named Flicka, a sire named King P234, and a foal named Bimbo. From Rock Springs, Texas, Lorelei was born into a horse breeding family. Today she runs 12 brood mares and has a total of 30 horses on her ranch, where she runs sheep, goats, and cattle. She's bred nearly 200 American Quarter horses in her name. She says, my dad instilled pride and quality of what you raise. I'm happiest when young people come by from me and really work at developing a good using horse, whether for roping, barrels, or 4-H. I'm happy when people are happy with my horses. And now let's hear from Lorelei Hankins.
I do want to thank the AQHA. I was lucky enough to be born into a family of horse people, and Jess had King, and I was privileged to be able to ride a lot of really good horses, raise my kids on good horses, and enjoy the life of. I've just recently acquired Jess Hankins' home place, and we're going to put it back together just like it was when King was there. So if you're ever in Rock Springs area, come by. We'll go down and see where King is buried. Thank you.
Charles Bigham had a specific goal when he started breeding American Quarter horses, an all-around animal with good conformation, able to perform all types of events. He bought his first quarter horse, Penny K, by Sorrel Lobo in 1953. His first homebred was foaled 4 years later, and his horses have been producing nonstop since 1963. Bigham bred horses have seen success in halter, cutting, western pleasure, team penning, and barrel racing, and many of his mares have been proven producers. Charles says the ideal horse has enough conformation to win a halter class, but still athletic enough to ride in any event, with a disposition that a small child can control. He's owned as many as 30 mares and 3 stallions at any one time, and his operation has produced more than 400 horses and still counting. Representing Charles Bigham this evening is his daughter, Nancy Jeter.
On behalf of my dad, I want to thank the American Quarter Horse Association for this great award. I know he would have been very proud to have stood up here, and he would have had a lot of stories to tell you. I remember that first horse. She was mine. I was 4 years old at the time when we got Penny, and then he had a mare too that we call Babe, and it was through those two mares that most of the horses that he has today started from those two mares. And through the years, lots of things, lots of people we've known, kids that I went to school with, and kids younger than me that had some of his horses, and they've used them all through the years, and he always enjoyed helping kids. And I have 3 daughters. One is really involved in horses, and then one of her daughters is 9 years old and won her first saddle this year. So we're keeping the legacy going. Thank you.
Donald Happy Campbell was born 100 years and 5 months ago in British Columbia, moved to Alberta in his late teens. He and his wife Mary bought their ranch in 1946 near Buffalo, Alberta. That's where he started an American quarter horse broodmare line with his partner, Royal Burros. The ranch uses pasture breeding with 2 broodmare bands of about 15 mares each, and horses bred on the ranch are used on the ranch. His youngest son, Bill, now carries on the family tradition of raising good ranch and rope horses. One of Happy's greatest achievements is seeing his horses compete in rodeos and team roping. He says, "I like training horses and having people buy them and then give them good homes." And that's a sentiment that makes AQHA happy as well. Representing Donald Happy Campbell this evening is Donald's son, Bill Campbell.
Some people were meant to ride horses. Some people were meant to give speeches. I'm meant to ride horses. Well, like they already said, my dad was born in British Columbia in 1913, and I'm proud to be here to accept this great award in his behalf. A man of 100 years old. Dad always raised and loved horses, and raised horses since the early 50s. In the early 60s, he partnered up with a cutting horse man from Alberta, Canada by the name of Royal Burros. They started up a herd between the two of them. Their first stallion was Poco Sunday. Poco Sunday was a son of Poco Bueno. They crossed him with some big, strong mares to breed big, strong geldings. They also used a stallion by the name of Honest Jack, who was a son of Honest John. Honest Jack won the Canadian Cutting Horse Championship several times with Royal Burros on him. Later, he bought a stallion by the name of Dandy Jess. This Poco Sunday horse, he left him a lot of buckskins and Palomino colts. So he bought the Dandy Jess. He was a Captain Jess by King. And he had it in his mind to raise a lot of buckskin geldings, big, strong buckskin geldings. With the Dandy Jess horse was a bay horse. He crossed his Palomino mares with the bay horse that gave him a lot of buckskins. He just loved the color of buckskin horses. After that, he bought a stallion by the name of Poco Bueno Eger, who was a son of Doc Silep by Doc Barr, and out of a daughter of Poco Bueno by the name of Poco Lindo. They were also buckskin horses, and he kept on raising buckskin horses. To this day, he's still got a lot of buckskin horses on the ranch and keeps trying to breed the same color and big, strong, thoroughbred type horses with big wethers and big black feet. We have a lot of miles to make on the ranch, and they could handle it. He also loved to see all his horses go to rodeos in most all the events. I think one or two even got in the saddle bronc. For a few years, Dad ran 2 herd bunches with 2 different studs, trying to keep the color and size going. And still today, there's lots of 07 branded horses. 07 was the ranch brand that Dad always used. There's still lots of them horses going down the road in team roping and all the rodeo events. Our colts, we got kind of a different style of handling our colts. We handle our colts in the middle of the summer and worm them all and put them back on their mothers. We just handle them a little bit. Then in the fall, they come off of grass, and we wean them and winter them and halter break them in the winter time, and they're turned back on grass until they're 2 years old. They're never handled again. Then as 2-year-olds, we bring them in and start them for 2 months, and then they're turned loose again until they're 3 or 4 years old. They develop a lot of good solid bone on our grass, and they're strong enough to handle anything we give them. Every year I go to Arizona, I take some of them young horses with me and rope off them down there and take them back home, and they go to either ranches. The ones that make good head horses get sold for head horses or heel horses. Dad's still with us today on the ranch. There's 8 children in the family. Last summer at our branding, he celebrated his 100th birthday. There was 90 children and family at the branding to help celebrate. He still loves his horses and loves being around home. I'm sure he'll be there till the day he dies. I'd like to thank you again, the AQHA, for this great award that he received while he was still alive. Thank you.
The largest ranch in Canada is a town in itself with a store, post office, school, and a church. Douglas Lake Cattle Company in British Columbia covers more than 500,000 acres, and that many cowboys need a lot of good horses. Chunky Woodward was ranch manager when he started the Douglas Lake breeding program in the early 1960s. He began by purchasing Pepe San, a son of Leo San, who would become the National Cutting Horse Association world champion in 1967. And Stardust Desire, a 1958 sorrel mare by Stardust Red, and the 1966 world champion in cutting. Current ranch manager Joe Gardner says they work about 20,000 head of cattle entirely on horseback. No motorcycles or ATVs allowed. Today the ranch has 30 brood mares that are pasture bred, almost all related to Pepe San or Stardust Desire. Douglas Lake is also a Zoetis AQHA Best Remuda Award winner. Representing Douglas Lake Cattle Company this evening is Vice President and General Manager Joe W. Gardner.
I do have a few things. What a great honor to be here again. And to receive this award on behalf of the Douglas Lake Cattle Company and our owner, Mr. Stan Kroenke. I think it's very important We all know it, but part of this and the importance of it falls to the American Quarter Horse Association, the dedicated directors, executive, long-serving employees, Don, Jim, others, that make it what it is. We have to remember that. It's very important. Douglas Lake is proud to be a long-time member of the American Quarter Horse Association. It isn't the first stud book we've been in. Turns out that in 1884, one of our founders went to Glasgow, Scotland, and bought the 2-year-old stallion champion of the show, Clydesdale Stud, and imported him all the way back to Douglas Lake in British Columbia. Can you imagine the logistics of doing that? His partners thought he'd gone crazy, spend that much money and that much effort to move a Clydesdale all the way to Douglas Lake. But it turned out that they made more money for many years selling Clydesdale workhorses than they did selling cattle. Nowadays, of course, we make money chasing beef cattle, and so I appreciate also the steak dinner. It was a pleasure to be able to sit with Jim and Mavis this evening at the same table, because they're probably the only ones here in the room that have been to Douglas Lake. So I'd like to invite you to change that if you'd like to come and see the place. There's always a good reason to go to BC in the summer or to visit the Okanagan Valley that we're very close to. So if you'd like to, hit our website and you'll be able to find me and come and have a look. It's a nice trip. I'd also like to let you know that my daughter being raised at Douglas Lake became infected also. And so we did the whole high school rodeo, Little Britches, non-pro and now pro rodeo, and she's in Alberta over there near the Campbells at Caroline, and raising cattle and quarter horses and barrel racing. And so her name turns up in the registry here also. So I'd like to thank you all for this wonderful event, this wonderful award, and look forward to seeing you at Douglas Lake. Thank you.
Calf roper, bareback bronc rider, PRCA announcer, and now AQHA 50-year breeder. Don Harrington of Butte and Dillon, Montana, registered his first American quarter horse in 1960. Since then, he's bred more than 500 horses and always works to produce an animal with a good mind and natural cow sense, strength to pull cattle when roping, but also speed, stopping ability, and soundness. Don and his wife Shirley have bred horses for ranch work, pleasure riding, and competition, and they've even had success in competition. The horses are raised in rough country, which gives them good feet, strong legs, and educated minds. Don's quick to mention his children and grandchildren. He says, "We have had a great family time researching pedigrees and even deciding which mares to breed to which studs. Knowing so many generations of horses we've raised is interesting and fun." Representing Don Harrington this evening is Bill Lake.
Well, I'm representing Don Harrington this evening, and Don, he knew that he had been got this award, but he passed away 3 weeks ago, and so I'm representing the family. Mrs. Harrington lost Don the 1st of October. A week later, she lost her brother, and so you can understand they just couldn't make it. And Don was very prominent businessman. He had a Pepsi-Cola bottling business. He was one of the most prominent rodeo announcers in the United States and Canada. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. He was on the board of directors. He was inducted in the Montana Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. And he was just an all-around person. And kind of a sidebar to this Pepsi deal, he was so, he rode for the brand, so to speak. You know, I always thought about Don, if he was crawling across the desert and he was dying of thirst and there was a Coca-Cola bottling thing there, he would just keep crawling along, even if you know the Oasis was 50 miles away, you know. So anyway, but the other thing about his rodeo announcing is he did that as a full-time job plus run all of his other businesses. In the 4th of July, we have 3 big rodeos they're called the Gateways: Cody, Wyoming, Red Lodge, and Livingston. And everybody enters those over the 4th because Calgary's on and everybody's up there. So anyway, Don would announce Livingston or Red Lodge in the afternoon, and then he'd get on an airplane and he'd announce Livingston at night. I mean, he was a real worker as far as that went. So, but Don's real love was horses, and he had lots of them, and he always thought the more the merrier. And he was always looking at catalogs and wanted to get more horses, and he'd call me and say, "Bill, what do you think about this stud horse or that stud horse?" And I'm going, "Gee, Don, you got 5 already. Maybe you better, let off a little bit." So, but anyway, the family couldn't come, and they're just so busy trying to run the business and Don's death, and they weaned over 3,000 calves this month, and in Wisdom, Montana, which is maybe 150 people, there was 37 trucks waiting the other day to load cattle. So they got caught in a storm, and they all got there at the same time. So that's a lot of livestock to load. But anyway, Shirley, Mrs. Harrington, told me, she said, "You tell those people down there that we're going to keep breeding horses, and we're not going to use any 4-wheelers, and we're going to keep dragging them to the fire." So anyway, from the Harrington family, thank you very much.
Charles David Bird founded the Bird Ranch in Matador, Texas in 1926. They've been raising cattle and quarter horses ever since. Any good ranch needs a good workhorse, which the Bird Ranch has raised plenty of, but they also breed racehorses. Charlie's wife, Kay, says the ranch's success is based partly on the versatility of the American quarter horse. Kay says the breed provides a good attitude, conformation, and an all-purpose, all-around horse with cow sense. Today, Bird Ranch cowboys continue to work cattle on horseback. Kay says as a breeder that the desire is for others to enjoy your horses and that the American quarter horse industry will go forward because of its appeal to the masses. It is a horse for people of all ages, she says, and that she's grateful for the contribution the horse has made to her ranch and her family. Please welcome, representing the Bird Ranch, Kay Bird.
Would like to thank all of you for having us here tonight for this occasion. And the quarter horse is very important to Bird Ranch. Has been for all these years, will continue to be. We're going to try our best to raise the best we can, going to race them and going to work them on the ranch and hopefully sell some. That's part of all of our business, is getting them out there to the public so that they can use them, enjoy them, and we'll have more and more people enjoy our American Quarter Horse. I can't thank this association enough for having us here tonight. My daughter, granddaughter are here. My son-in-law, my foreman at Paducah, and my branch people foreman from Midland. We're all glad to be here to enjoy this occasion. And thanks to everybody here and all of the breeders, good luck to you. Thank you.
Bob Moore's original goal was to raise his own racehorses to compete at the sport's highest levels. About a decade after he started his breeding program in the early 1960s, his efforts paid off with 1972 champion Mr. Jet Moore. Bob became one of the industry's leading market breeders, selling yearlings mostly through Heritage Place in Oklahoma City, in which he was a partner. And though he continued to add mares from other programs to his band, his overall plan was to retain the daughters and sisters of his best brood mares. Bob Moore Farms currently owns 19 brood mares and stands several stallions, including First Smart Money, FDD Dynasty, and Fury of the Wind. His wife and children remember Bob as a man who enjoyed the competition and the athletes, whether they were in his barn or not. Representing Bob Moore Farms this evening is farm manager Philip M. Stewart.
Is this a great organization or what? Where else can you hug the president? Or want to hug the president? On behalf of the Moore family, it's an honor for me to be here tonight and accept this award in their behalf, and they wish to extend their regrets in not being able to be here. It's been Mr. Moore's, I had this speech all worked out. Been through it several times. Anyway, the one thing that I've heard, there's two things that I think were important in this business. One is money. Mr. Moore always said there's a lot of money in the horse business. I know because I put it there. But number two, and as I listened to people up here this evening, the second reason is the only reason, I think, to have this legacy award, and that is passion. It takes a great deal of passion to stay in this business and breed for 50 years. I congratulate all the honorees here tonight and encourage their passion to continue on, because that's what makes the American Quarter Horse. Mr. Moore loved the competition, and he loved the people, and he had the passion for both. Again, on behalf of the family, thank you very much for this award.
When he was a teenager, Jake Dial bought Jesse Beery's horse training guide and used it to train his own horses. He trained them as ranch horses, which means, as he puts it, to do whatever the job called for it. He bought his first American quarter horse in 1949, and that began his long history of breeding for racing and ranching. Jake sought out stallions and mares with, in his words, good conformation, disposition, and the athletic ability to be a good ranch horse or show horse, but fast enough to go to the racetrack. In other words, he bred American quarter horses. Jake says, over the years, I've received many phone calls from horse owners as well as letters telling me what their horses have done. That gives you a good feeling to know you've had a part in the lives of these animals. Representing Jake Dial this evening is Jake's daughter, Marilyn Dial Gibbs.
This is an awesome place.
place to be here from West Alabama. This is such an awesome place to be, time to be here, and from West Alabama, and my dad would just love to been here and miss this, but he had an aneurysm a few years ago and so many strokes. But he loved quarter horses, his passion, our whole life. But to walk in here to see those horses with Sporty Joe Bailey and Rondo down there that I grew up as a teenager. And then we had son of Zampar Bar and Mr. Sandpappy and made his legacy. And it's just a dream and such an honor to be here. And this is just $1 million trophy, I want to tell you. Thank you so much for AQHA, for everything they've done for our family. Thank you so much.
Several honorees are unable to join us this evening, but we would now like to recognize them. Herbert Hine of Allen, Kansas, Judd and Millie Morse from San Jacinto, California, The Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio, Jay Wright of Ash Fork, Arizona, Robert A. Hurley of Clarksville, Arkansas, Triple U Enterprises of South Dakota, Donald and Betty Opie from Crane, Oregon, Morris Hagberg of Spencer, Nebraska, Bob Evans, Hidden Valley Ranch in Bidwell, Ohio, James Huckabee of Stephenville, Texas, John Fortner Jr. of Arapahoe, Oklahoma, and Roy Bud Rankin of Lodgepole, Nebraska. Tonight's awards are very special to the people accepting them, but they're also very important to AQHA. You've helped preserve the American quarter horse. On behalf of the American Quarter Horse Association, I congratulate all of you. We hope you've enjoyed your very special evening. Thank you, and good night.